So let's sit.
Right, sometimes have to intervene.
So let's sit nice and tall and close the eyes. And just take a nice breath in, a nice breath out. Allow yourself to arrive in this moment. And feel what it is to be here now. Feel what it is to be sitting in your seat, to be breathing in your body, to be present in your mind, and to be open in the heart. And notice that the moment we begin to pay attention on purpose, a certain kind of contentment comes forward. It's almost like, you could move if you wanted to, but you don't really want to. So you just stay still in the stillness of the experience of yourself. And having gratitude for that experience, having gratitude for contentment. Placing the right hand on the heart, left hand over the right. And together we'll lift our voices in one beautiful Om. Take a nice breath in. Om. And bowing the head to the heart, acknowledging all that is. And drawing the face to center, release the hands. Flutter the eyes open. So sometime earlier this year, I put together this book, which was based on writings that I had done over a 30-day period, as well as some earlier things I had written. And it's called 30 Days. And what it is meant to be is a 30-day study of contentment. It's meant to be a 30-day journey into all the different aspects of contentment. And I revisit it every so often, just kind of contemplating where contentment fits in my life in this moment, at this point in time, under these circumstances. How does contentment show up for me? And yesterday we went to this very beautiful festival called the Inclusion Festival, which is a festival to include all people, no matter their sensory challenges, no matter their life challenges, no matter their traditions, no matter, to include everybody. And it was a very lovely, lovely festival. And we talked in there about the necessity of our own personal work, and how in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, it's better to do your own work and fail miserably than to do the work of another and succeed. What does that have to do with contentment? Everything. Because when we're able to step firmly, compassionately, and knowingly into our own work, suddenly we experience a certain kind of contentment that alleviates the stress and the anxiety of having to deal with other people's work. It's not up to us to fix other people. It's not up to us to put our nose in where it typically doesn't belong. It's not up to us to be judge and jury for anybody. What is up to us is to pay attention to our own path so that we are living up to the potential that we have and the intention that we have set for ourselves. The more that we're looking out, the more that we're looking at someone else's path, the more that we are not paying attention to what we're doing, the less invested we are in our path and the more anxiety we'll feel because we'll feel disconnected. So this journey of contentment is meant to bring us more deeply into our work. is meant to bring us more deeply into the essence of what needs to be done in our own life. We look at someone else and we say, wow, you've got some real issues. You don't, you're hateful, or you're judgmental, or you're cheap, or you're this, or you're that. And we pass all these judgments on other people. And that's so much energy going out in such a violent way. And the moment that we behave in a violent way, it's like there is this beautiful intuitive intelligence in the body. It knows there's such a thing as retaliation. So prepare, because you just did something violent. Odds are you're now going to receive something back from that person or from somebody else. The moment that we speak violently, we steal our contentment from ourselves. The moment that we judge others harshly in a way that is defeating and obliterating, annihilating them, then we cause pain for ourselves too. And we steal our contentment from ourselves. And we haven't perhaps turned around the situation and said, in what way does what I'm seeing reflect what I do? In what way does what I'm seeing, does what I'm witnessing in this world by whoever it is that we're paying attention to, how does that reflect the behaviors that I myself have on some level? You see someone yelling at their child and you automatically call them a jerk in your mind. But yet, who have you yelled at? So contentment is a really interesting thing when you start looking at it from the perspective of our own work. That if we're not engaged in our own work, contentment will easily escape us. When we are invested in our own work, then contentment comes very easily and it stays for a while. Because we have the reduced burden of trying to fix everybody else. And we also have an internal sense of authenticity that we are taking care of what we need to take care of. We are addressing our own life, our own path, our own well-being. And in doing so, it's a great service. Because in doing so, we end up walking through the world in a less harmful way, less violent, less imposing. So contentment is a very important practice. But it's directly linked to our work on the spiritual path of life. If all we do is blame other people, telling them how they're at fault for our situation, then we'll never come into a space where we understand that we have self-responsibility. There's some amount of history that we all have where maybe people harmed or betrayed, but that is not the whole of us. That is a small, small part of us. And if that's the only thing that we choose to hold on to, then contentment will escape us. If we look at whatever happens in our life, whatever our history holds, and we acknowledge that there was a growing there was a learning there, no matter how painful it was, that there was something there that we were able to walk away with, even if it was just knowing our own strength, that we could survive something. Then we walk away understanding a little bit more about our own resiliency. And that allows us to have a deeper sense of contentment. But if we walk away from a situation and all we ever talk about is the wrong that was done to us, then we're making ourselves into a weak individual who does not believe in their own inner strength, in their own resiliency, or in their own capacity to heal. And I don't know about you, but the second one sounds so much more attractive, The first one is not the person that I wish to be in this life. But that in and of itself is work. Because that means that we need to look at all of our relationships and ask ourselves, in what way am I judging this relationship as being a bad relationship, a useless relationship, a really, really great relationship? In yoga, we say equanimity, which on some level is the same as contentment. Similar, very, very similar. Because when we have equanimity within relationship, we recognize that relationships, human relationships, are meant to teach us things. And we will not always learn from the teacher who we get along with. Sometimes we learn the greatest lessons from the teacher that we don't appreciate. Sometimes we learn the greatest lessons about acceptance from the most difficult teacher. When I was in college, I had a professor named Dr. Fong, and he was the first professor in my whole college career, and by now I had 4 degrees. At that point, now I have 5, who gave me a C. I was mortified. I was mortified. Never before that did I get anything less than a B+, and almost everything was an A or an A-. And I went to him and I said, it was actually a C-. A C-? Where is this coming from? What did you not like about my amazing paper? He looked at me point blank and said, "You're wrong." I said, "What do you mean I'm wrong?" "I'm not wrong." It was a conversation in the paper about Hitler. And it was in the paper I was talking about how Hitler not only identified and went after the Jewish population, but he also went after Catholics and homosexuals as well as many others. And although the Jewish population obviously took the brunt of his action, and he said, "You're wrong. He did not go after those people." And I looked at him, and I knew I was correct. But I knew that if I engaged in the conversation from a place of my ego, which was like, "I'm right, you're wrong," and that was irateness, Plus there was just the bruise of getting a C-. Oh my gosh. That was unheard of. That I had to think very quickly about, how do I talk to him about this? So I said, "Well, how about if I show you my resources?" He said, "I don't care what your resources are. It's wrong." I said, "Show me your resources. I want to understand where you're coming from, why you're saying this. Because this is all over the history books. It's everywhere." He said, "They're wrong." Never did I win that conversation. Never did I win that argument. He did elevate my grade to a C+. But what I learned in that conversation was a really valuable lesson. I learned that you're not always going to agree. Even when you think you have all the facts stacked on your side, the other person doesn't have to agree with you. They don't have to agree with you because they're going by what they believe are their facts on their side. And to sit there and to have an argument and to try to convince them would be to cause harm to both of us. So Dr. Fong taught me a really important lesson. And he taught me a little bit about humility too. That there's really nothing wrong with getting a C+. And his words to me were actually, "I don't know what you're worried about. After you graduate, no one's ever going to see this grade anyway." And I just looked at him and I said, "That's not the point. The point is I want to understand, But sometimes understanding is not in the cards. Sometimes another person behaves a certain way, makes a certain decision, and we will not understand. Will we allow that inability to understand to steal our contentment from us? Or will we just accept that there's an impasse and it's okay? Because in the end, this too will change. In the end, after all is said and done, everything will change and your attention will go elsewhere. So when you're meeting people in life, when you're coming up to people in life and you're having conversations, hold enough space for them to be who they are. Don't think you have to fix their attitude, fix their belief system, fix the way they see the world. You don't. Neither do I. None of us do. We can share in many beautiful moments of similarity, and then we can also thrive in moments of diversity. The conversation with Dr. Fong had the opportunity to go many different places. It didn't, but it could have. He could have shed a light for me that I wasn't aware of, you know. Think about the people in your own life who could shed a light on something that you're not aware of, and broaden your vision a little bit. Yeah. So remaining open, but being able to see the way that you're interacting in a situation, being able to see the ethic that you're bringing forward is doing your work. And then not getting so invested in what the other person is right or wrong about, but rather having the pureness of the experience. And that's what the heart really wants. The spiritual heart really just wants to have the experience of life and of death. Because that's what we're here. We're here to be born, we're here to live, and we're here to die. And sometimes the last one is a bit frightful for people, and it causes a lot of discontent throughout life. But that's because we don't tend to start, the work until the 11th hour. And then we worry and fret that we don't have enough time. So let's not wait till the 11th hour. Let's start now. And if we've already started, let's go deeper now. Let's go even deeper. And not just be satisfied with a superficial contentment that everything is going our way. Because that's not really contentment, that's just satisfaction. Contentment means that no matter whether things are going your way or the opposite, that you're okay. That you're okay with it. Not because the situation is perfect, but because the situation has potential to reveal perfection for the spirit, which is something that's really challenging for the human mind to conceive of. The human mind being so driven by the senses. I want to see, taste, feel, smell, hear the things I like. I want all those things to surround me. I don't want to see, smell, taste, touch, feel the things I don't like. I want those to stay away from me. We get so caught up in that when things seem to be going our way, we become very happy and content and yay. But the moment that someone puts a little pin in one of those balloons, the whole world falls through. It crashes like a vase on the floor, shards spreading everywhere. And suddenly life is horrible, miserable in the moment. And what happened to all the contentment? Contentment is a compassionate discipline. It requires that we show up to it even in the moment when it's a great struggle. Even in moments where we might feel like, I really want to fly off the handle at this one, and maybe I'm justified in doing so. But then to stop, to look at oneself, to take a moment and to say, I'm not justified in flying off the handle. Maybe I could take a moment, listen, pay attention to what has to happen next, or what could happen next, or what my options are. And then act mindfully so as to continue a beautiful balance. And balance is not 50-50. Very important to remember that. Balance is not 50-50. Balance is appropriate to the situation. There are certainly some situations in life where you can walk very slowly, where you can feel each foot touching the ground, where you can gaze at the blue sky or at the trees or the grass, where you can take your time and have that be a contemplation of contentment. But there are other times where you better walk fast. Like if your house is on fire, you best walk fast. But don't walk fast in a tizzy. Walk fast with specific meaning. Walk fast with contentment. Walk fast with a heart of knowing that when your mind is clear, you will be more effective in every single situation than when your mind is muddled. When the mind is muddled, you will not be effective in any situation. You will just become more muddled. So important. So contentment in our personal work. Of course, contentment arises naturally, too. I think sometimes in the morning when I wake up, that's the moment where I feel just the most content. And the reason being is because my mind hasn't started yet. And so I open my eyes, and typically my dog is right here. And she's like, "Bark." Yeah. And maybe there's a cat there too or something, And in that moment, it's just like, good morning. And there's not a worry in the world. There's not a care in the world. There's not a thought in my head for at least 15 seconds. Yeah. I try to stave them off a little bit compassionately. I'm like, can you just give me 5 more seconds, please, before they start bombarding me? But it's such a naturally occurring contentment. But isn't it beautiful to know that you can actually walk through much of your life that way? You can actually walk through much of your life holding into the balance of doing the work and experiencing the contentment. Of holding into the compassionate discipline of straightforwardness and experiencing the softness of contentment. We can actually walk through our life a good degree of the time practicing that. But what it requires we let go of is our attachment to being right, our attachment to being wrong, our attachment to what others are right or wrong about, our attachment to the ego, our attachments. It requires that we start to let go of some of those strings that are propping us up like marionette dolls. Does that make sense? Yeah. This contentment is beautiful. It's actually one of the niyamas. So the yamas and the niyamas are the 10 ethics by which a spiritual soul can live. And according to yoga, should live, should practice. And the niyama are the second 5, and they are the internal observations. And the first one is santosha. And santosha is contentment. A person should practice contentment. And how do they practice contentment? By practicing the other 9 yamas and niyamas. By practicing non-harming, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-grasping, self-study, compassionate discipline, cleanliness, devotion, God consciousness, God awareness. By practicing all those things on our path, we experience contentment. But when we practice harm, deceit, grasping, no devotion, or doubt, which is the opposite of devotion, when we're not interested in the sacred, then contentment isn't possible. It's just not possible. A person doesn't have to call it sacred. They can call it whatever word they want. Our language has many words for that. But if you're not in awe of something about life that supersedes your understanding, then there's not a sense of devotion. And of course, the more one embraces the concept of a higher power, a higher energy, a universal consciousness, the more that devotion grows and grows and grows into the ultimate devotion, the parabhakti, the ultimate devotion, the supreme devotion. And then our life becomes about expressing the light. Whether you're in a dual or a non-dual lineage or tradition, dual would be that God exists outside of you, and the two shall never be one. And non-dual is that God exists within, without, and around, and they are always one. No matter what tradition it is that you take part in, devotion is a very important part of that. Coming into the relationship of understanding that your life is a direct reflection of God's intention. And it doesn't matter the name you put to it. Nature, universal consciousness, God, Goddess, Jesus, Buddha, Allah. Buddha's not a God. He didn't want to be a God. He just said, I'm a guy. I found myself. Find yourself. Be happy. Please don't make me into a God when I die. And what did the students do when he died? They made him into a God. At least one school did. But when we walk through our life, what we're saying when we're practicing all of these spiritual practices is we're saying all these great ones that came before me who really brought this message of love and light into the world, I want my life to reflect that. That's what I want to bring to the world. That's what my heart wants to bring to the world. And that's where I'm happiest, because that's where contentment thrives. It thrives. Contentment doesn't thrive in war. Contentment doesn't thrive in chaos when you're the one causing the chaos. But if you're the one standing in the midst of chaos, you can be like the eye in the center of the storm, if contentment is one of your practices. But if you are the one who's bringing the chaos forward, then you cannot have contentment in the same moment. It's not possible. In the Eastern traditions, there's a beautiful proverb. It says, if the breath is calm, the mind is calm. And if the mind is calm, the breath is calm. Never shall the breath be calm if the mind is chaotic. And never shall the mind be calm if the breath is chaotic. And you can look at the breath as your behavior, because your behavior dictates the way you breathe. So your behavior, your work, is what brings about contentment in the mind, which we can call stillness. Make sense? So I'll read to you one little passage. Acknowledging the sacred means we are willing to step into and surrender into right relationship with the essence of both the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Right relationship means appropriate, balanced, and in a way that allows us to recognize the wonder and divinity that surrounds us, while also being compassionately disciplined and straightforward with our personal work. Right relationship means we have faith in a solution, but even more so, we have faith in the existence of meaning and purpose. The moment we step into doubt, hate, or separatism, we drop that greater connection like a phone call gets dropped. We think, where did it go? Where is my spirituality? Where is my God? God and Goddess haven't gone anywhere. Our choice is either close us off or open us up. Closed is simply not accessible to healing. We become inaccessible to the sacredness of the one. Open means we are accessible and capable of seeing and knowing the unity, the truth, and the potential. We are capable of peace. We are capable of love, even when the minds and actions of others are disagreeable to our own. Do not contribute to the violence. Be open. Be in right relationship with Shiva and Shakti and the sacredness that they manifest. And then the invitation, that would be the day 7 writing. The invitation that day is to walk through the world on that day, considering that. Am I in right relationship with this? And this is everything. Everything in your day, from the moment that you wake up. I wake up and Marika is right here. Am I in right relationship? Can I appreciate and have gratitude for her love, for her presence, for her need to go out, And can I see her need as being more important than me hitting the snooze button, which I don't do. Just an example. Then I wake up. I sit up. Now, in that moment, am I in right relationship with my body, with my mind? Or am I already saying, gee, I wonder what's going to happen today. I wonder what will go wrong. I wonder where today will bring me. Oh, I don't want to go have that meeting. I don't want to go do this. I don't want to go do that. That's not right relationship. Right relationship is meeting the moment. And in the moment, you're sitting in your bed or standing up or still lying down, wherever you are, as you're waking, where's the gratitude for the day? The essence of, this is another day, and I'm alive, and I'm here to witness it. Coming into right relationship. And then you get up and you start getting dressed. And as you start getting dressed, maybe your clothes don't fit the way they used to. Maybe, you're gaining a pound or two. And as you're putting the clothes on, you begin to curse yourself, to become dissatisfied with yourself, to maybe even hate yourself. Is that right relationship? No, that is not right relationship. Right relationship would be to appreciate whatever the body is. Because whatever the body is what it is meant to be in that moment, and how you treat the body with your food, with your thoughts. Stress accumulates weight because it's heavy. Anxiety accumulates weight because it's heavy. So not being in right relationship with the body in some way, shape, or form is related to not being in right relationship with your stress and anxiety. But let's be really clear about that. By right relationship to the body, I don't mean that your body is in what the medical association would call perfect health. There's very little of that in the world at this or any point in time, because this is a biological body. And this body is aging every moment and changing every moment and gaining weight and losing weight and being strong and then being weak and being tired and being, energized. It's always changing. So the condition that I meet the moment in is the condition that I am meant to meet that moment in, so that I can practice contentment. Does that make sense? Yeah. So why are we judging ourselves so harshly? I don't like myself. I'm not happy with the way I look, with the way I sound, with the way I think, Well, the thinking maybe. Well, that's another conversation. Yeah. But why are we judging ourselves so critically based on appearance, when the way that we appear, the way that we show up, is actually the tool to teach us contentment, compassion, acceptance, the necessities sometimes of change? Do we go into all of these different fad diets in order to change our body out of dissatisfaction? Some people suggest that that's a healthy thing to do. I would suggest just be healthy. And I'm cleansing right now. I'm cleansing right now because my husband died 9 months ago. And the past 9 months have been full of a lot of things. They've been full of a lot of grief, a lot of time by myself, learning what it is to be me without him. A lot of time reorganizing my thoughts and my patterns of behavior. A lot of time just contemplating. And there's definitely been a lot of grief. But over those 9 months, I've also transforming constantly toward or into me. Because I'm not the same person I was 9 months ago. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I'm not potentially the same person I was yesterday. We're always changing. And so one of our staff members was going to be doing this cleanse, and I typically do an Ayurvedic cleanse twice a year for health. And I was like, I think I'm just going to do that with you. Because I felt like it was a bridge. It was a bridge between yesterday and today. It was a bridge between the grief and the acceptance. It was a bridge between the past and the present. And so in that regard, do what you need to do to come to peace with your circumstances, to come to peace with your situation. And maybe a little cleanse is good because it lightens up the mind. Well, maybe not on day one. On day one, it's kind of cloudy with a little bit of flu-like symptoms. But after that, it's just clarity comes and it comes and it comes. And you begin to see clearly certain things, whatever it would be for you. For me, I begin to see clearly the gift of grief. The gift. Why is grief a gift? Well, because it reminds you how much you love. It reminds you how much love you are capable of. And now I choose gratitude rather than the grief. I still have the grief, but I'll choose gratitude more and more and more. So, food is not the only cleansing, right? Our spiritual practice is a cleansing. Coming into our spiritual practice, whatever that is, whether it's meditation or prayer or yoga asana, sound healing, Reiki, going to church, going to temple, coming to the wisdom circle, whatever your spiritual practice is, that's your cleansing also. And if you do it consistently enough, what you'll find is that contentment will increase a little bit at a time, because little insights lead to a lot of contentment. Little insights about your own energy, how to conserve your energy, how to more appropriately utilize your energy, how to invest your energy, how to leave things alone when they don't need your energy invested in them. And then when we do interact, as Dr. Jeff can appreciate, to do so with feelings and needs, aware of those things. Nonviolent communication. Dr. Jeff is our nonviolent communication teacher. And then walking through life a little bit at a time, maybe a lot at a time, depending upon who you are. More and more nonviolently, more and more compassionately, more and more content in the heart and in the mind. Why do we want to be content besides the health benefits? There's a lot of health benefits to contentment. But why else would we want to be content? Ilona, in just 3 or 4 words, what do you want out of this life?
Peace.
What do you want out of this life, Nick?
Peace.
What do you want, Rich?
Peace would be nice.
Shelley?
Peace.
Fun and excitement and
Cal?
Peace.
Very good. Peace. Will you have peace without contentment? Nope. So you need to practice contentment in order to experience the potential of peace. Practicing contentment. And, we could run off and go live in caves. I don't think there's enough caves in the world for everybody, though. But we could run off and live in caves and never have to deal with another person again, and we could certainly be content for the first 5 minutes. Until, a rock falls on our head or a bear decides he wants our space or something, There's always something that's going to happen that's going to inflict itself into our experience and potentially cause us a sense of discontent unless we practice contentment. There's a group of meditators up in New York City, and they run retreats every so often in the city, and they take you for meditative walks under where the railway goes overhead, where it's loud, so loud. And, they're like, look, if you can't be content and peaceful in the city, where will you be content? If you cannot be peaceful in the midst of a disagreement with someone, where will you be peaceful? When everything is going your way? No, the practice is welcome the obstacles. Welcome the obstacles so that we can learn to move through the obstacles in a way that is more valuable to that intention of experiencing peace in this life. So contentment is a practice. And it's not a practice that's going to be perfect all the way through. So many times students say, I've been doing this for a while now. How come I don't have it down already? Because today's a different day. You're dealing with different layers of the onion today. You're dealing with different circumstances. Your hormones are different. Your digestion everything is different today. And that's all going to affect you and how you see things. So you need to be aware that you're different, that the circumstances are different, but that spirit is the same. And you can draw the contentment forward from spirit, and you can infuse the situation with that instead of impatience, instead of hate, or whatever the alternative might be in that moment. Questions at this point, or comments, or reflections? What do we think? Yes?
I just you're saying being content, I find myself, I don't have time for loud people or people that want to be argumentative, like, learning to disagree without being disagreeable, or learning to disagree with disagree. And I see, like, when I'm in a loud environment, it's almost like I try, it seems like I want to seek shelter from, like my senses become more aware, more awareness, like, when it's too bright, when it's too loud, when something smells too, putrid, what have you, and my senses have become more aware. And being present with my senses is definitely been happening for me.
Yeah. And so when we're driven by the senses, it's kind of like a runaway cart where you don't have the reins to the horse. Yeah. And because the senses are directly linked to the ego. And the ego has preference. It likes this, but it doesn't like that. And it wants what it wants, and it doesn't want what it doesn't want, and it will go to great extents, including causing anxiety and tension in order for you to agree with it and move in a way that it wants you to. And I'm speaking about it as if it were separate. It's not separate, but it is an independent mechanism of some sort that few really understand, if anybody. But I love the way that they talk about it in many of the yoga traditions, because they say, you have this part of yourself that understands inherent goodness and that doesn't really care about those loud noises. They're just noises. But then you have this other part of you that those loud noises remind you of something. And when the ego is not balanced, it grabs hold of that. And maybe it reminds you of irritation. Maybe it reminds you of a loud noise that scared you in childhood. Whatever it is that it reminds you of.
A loud parent.
Yeah, exactly. So then the ego grabs hold of that because it's drama. Yeah. And the ego function, when it's not balanced, loves drama because it's so external. It's so external. It's like, what are you doing? 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 And it has absolutely no investment in what it's doing. But the other side of the self, or the greater self, the soul, this says, what am I doing? I'm not worried about what you're doing. What am I doing? I'm reacting to this noise. Well, that's not good for my nervous system. You hear a loud noise, and you constrict and you jump, and then your nervous system takes a little bit of a beating there. The moment that your nervous system moves into the state of fight or flight, which is what that is, that heightened sensitivity, your immune system becomes a little weaker. And then you become just a little tiny bit more prone to not feeling well. And in a situation which is very chronic in the West right now, when we exist in a consistent state of fight or flight, our immune systems are weak. And this fight or flight keeps us from even going outside a lot of the time. And outside is what allows our immune system to begin to build and thrive in nature. Feet in the dirt, hands in the soil, fresh air to breathe. I know the chemicals in the air and stuff like that. Do the best we can. But this fight or flight stops us from doing the things that allow health and wellness in the body to continually grow and grow and grow and thrive. So there is a meditation where you can sit with the senses and you can practice listening to sounds that you would normally feel are abrupt and aggravating, and soften to them so that there's none of this. Yeah, absolutely. It's a powerful, powerful, powerful practice. So there's 13 obstacles to yoga, and by yoga I don't mean the asana, I mean the experience of divinity and sacredness. the experience of God or goddess and goddess. And one of the categories is disturbance of energy within the body. And one very specific example of that disturbance of energy is jolting. When a person jolts, that is considered to be an obstacle to yoga because it's an insult to the nervous system. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we don't ever want to stuff things, and this is the other thing that's really important, So there's, for all of us, every single one of us, there's psychological reasons why we react to some things. And we don't want to just stop reacting and stuff our reaction down and call it healed. Yeah, that's not healthy. We want to look at it and say, what can I do to resolve the situation? And then, if you don't know, perhaps seek someone who might be able to support you. Or do some reading and find a meditation or a concentration practice that might be helpful for your particular situation. Understanding the root cause of things is extremely important. Why do those noises, why do those smells irritate? Sometimes we can alter our reaction, sometimes we can't. But we can always try. We can always try to come into a deeper understanding. Because whatever that understanding brings will be a benefit to us and to our knowing ourselves. It will be part of our work, rather than taking that energy and putting it out there somewhere where we don't know what we're investing in. And the payback is going to be very little, if anything. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Dr. Jeff?
Possibly 3 shares, if you would like.
Absolutely.
One, briefly. In one of the NBC sessions that we'll have here, we're going to do an exercise similar to what you just described as getting used to the noise, where we partner up and speak not actual words like gobbledygook, like making up words, but changing the tonality of it so we get used to different tones we're going to make it. And it usually evokes a lot of laughter or emotion and helps you get used to things.
Oh, yeah.
Share number 2. I'd like to reinforce or add to what you were saying earlier in the talk about being able to be content or satisfied when there's not agreement. And with what the nonviolent communication being such a focus for me, I'm focusing on connection and understanding of my goals rather than agreement. So I have observed I'll be a lot more satisfied because, I'm learning about that person, and that's more of a prime need than trying to get agreement or something. And there's still that desire for agreement at times, or grief or mourning that I didn't feel the shared reality I wanted, but a lot less because my goal is connection, just because it's what's present. I need a minute on the third one, so maybe we'll open up the floor.
Very good.
If it feels right to return to that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those. Anybody else? Questions or reflections?
Excuse me. I just had a thought when you had mentioned about caves and just from a personal standpoint, and you said there aren't enough caves around to climb into, but that's not true.
I know.
Because we have our own cave.
That's true.
And we climb within it to protect ourselves.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. So we have 2 caves, don't we?
yeah, we do.
Yeah, we have 2 caves. We have that cave, and then we have the cave of the heart.
Right.
Yeah. If we would choose the cave of the heart a little more often, that would be a great thing. That would be a great thing. Thank you for sharing that. That's so true. So many people walk through the world despondent, right? If you ever go to the city, it's so interesting to walk through the city. I used to love going to New York City when I was younger. I had some friends who lived up in Harlem, and we'd walk around and just do people watching, you know? And people are like this. Like they don't want to know you. You know, it's like they're in that cave. They're just like, and it's not a comforting thing to witness. It's a bit, what's the word for it?
Disconnecting.
Yeah, it's definitely disconnecting, definitely. And then you see like somebody like bumps elbows by mistake or something, and they just keep going even faster, you know, because they really don't want that interaction, you know. So that yeah, you're so right, Rich. That cave, that personal cave of protection is immense, so immense.
I can relate. I spent a lot of years in that cave around my family, being the youngest. And honestly, recently I come out and I have a voice that I haven't been using. They don't understand me. It's like, who is this person that he's speaking up against what I'm saying, or he has something to say contrary to what I believe? Like, well, that's not what the family thinks. That's what I think. And I can have my own voice today. And you know, some people aren't used to that, and that's okay.
It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's fine, you know. How many of you have never visited that cave? I mean, come on. Yeah, totally.
Where I work, we've been through like several iterations of customer service, and you know, it's always something new. And one of them was a scripting of how you were to walk down the hall, and if you saw somebody coming your way, how to look them in the eye, smile. It was like super fun. Look them in the eye, smile. Good morning. It's like, do we really need a script to just treat other people kindly and notice
That is so amazing.
what's
to
going
me.
on around us?
Wow.
Yeah, it didn't work. I mean, people are generally speaking nice. And, you know, sometimes in healthcare, somebody might just need to be in their own space for a little bit for whatever's going on. And you don't need to be, you know, you're not at Disney. This was like if Disney ran your hospital. And, you know, you're not, when you're at the hospital, it's not always like Disney.
Yeah,
So it was a little unrealistic.
a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah. But the cave of the heart, you know, is just such a beautiful place to be. Everybody's welcome there. You know, it's completely open. And so we carry these opposites within us all the time. And Rich, did you want to say anything else with that, or was that?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so we carry these opposites within us, and they have a tendency to torment us. Probably 90% of people, I mean, I think there are a small percent of people who really would prefer to be in that cave, that prison-like cave, that disconnected kind of cave. Small percentage of people. But most people will say, I'm looking for the other one, but I don't know how to get there. I really want to feel connected. I really want to feel love. I really want to feel, but I don't know how. I'm unsure. And then again, that's where the practice is necessary. Any practice. It doesn't have to be yoga. You know, if you're a Christian, go to church. Pray to God. Do what you've got to do. Whatever your practice is that supports you. Do the rosary. You know, if you're Muslim, do your prayers. Do your service. Commit to your service. Whatever your tradition is, if there's something in there that brings you comfort, then practice that like there's nothing else in this world. Just keep practicing that. And as that'll open up the cave of the heart. It'll open up the contentment. And it'll open up your experience of life immensely. Yeah. Anybody else? Dr. Jeff, do you have your third?
I do, and I'll begin it, but I really want to thank you for today, because you brought me back to my why of contentment, my purpose. And my purpose could be behind that. I had an incident yesterday that was difficult. I was on a bicycle trail tow got stopped. It's like a spill on the bike, a crash. So then the bike's on top of me, and I can't get out of the tow clip quickly. So now people are coming to help. I'm embarrassed. So the end of the story, when Robin doubled back and caught up with me, I'm holding it in for a bit. But I'm in a mindset of what's really supportive for me is I'm angry and I want to scream. And eventually I did that, and I banged the bike on the ground. Now I'm out and upright. And I know it's disquieting for her to be in that proximity, but I took this, I felt I needed it for me, because I've been struggling physically and internally. This is 24 hours a day. Contentment hasn't been my why. What do I need in this moment? So, you brought me back to that it's all practice, and it can be much more peaceful. And I can sense in my body, the minute you're talking about it. So I'm more connected to the why, and I know I'll be practicing. See, I was holding it as a should. Oh, I could hold this in and channel it differently, but it felt like a should. Well, I don't have to. That's where I was. It's not where I am now. So thank you.
You're welcome, John. You're so welcome. Absolutely. Anybody else?
Just in reference to anger, just feeling, frustration coming up, letting things come to a head and just exploding. Maybe not expressing my thought at the time. I may feel some discomfort of something that happened, something towards me or that what have you. And I know that I encountered that where I just, let things slide until they pile up rather than deal with them as they come. It's best to deal with things as they arise. And I've been shared a couple times, anger is a healthy emotion. It's what we do with it. I channel that, I landscaped 3 properties this week, that, I was feeling some anger with whatever, I can't really recall it, but I put that energy, I rechannel that energy into something productive, and that works.
Absolutely. And anger is not a bad thing. It's only if you use it violently that it doesn't serve you or anybody else. But anger is an emotion that we're all going to feel at some point in time. None of us escape that. None of us escape happiness either. We're going to feel that at some point in time too. And so since we're going to feel all of these emotions, whether we want to or not, best to have a good practice in place so that they don't take us for a ride. Yeah, so that we're not on the cart with the horses running and no reins, Yeah, we need a good set of reins, and that would be your spiritual practice. So let's sit nice and tall and close the eyes. Just take a breath in and a breath out. Love, light, faith, and peace. They live in you. They live in me. They are the greatest tools for healing. Let's awaken their power. We all grow and change. Then we grow some more. Then we change some more. Where we start and where we end are 2 very different places, 2 very different experiences, and each involves very different versions of ourself. We really are the butterflies that we have always longed to be. We are transformation in process. Placing the right hand on the heart and the left hand over the right. And together we'll lift our voices gratefully in one beautiful Om. Take a breath in. Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere find peace, love, light, and happiness. May all beings know their oneness. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste. Thank you all so much for being here today. So good to see each and every one of you. And Dr. Jeff is having his nonviolent communication at 1:30 or 12? At 12:30. And what session is this, Jeff? Is this 2? This is number 3. Okay, yeah. So it would have to just be the people who are already in the group.
I was thinking when I was sitting down earlier, if it's okay with the 3, if somebody wants to visit, come see me. If it's okay with the other 3 because of safety, intimacy, and concerns, if those needs were met, somebody could probably gain from today.
Okay. Yeah. So if anybody is interested in attending, please see Dr. Jeff.
I'm going to talk about 4 ways we can hear people. Do we hear blame and blame back? Do we hear blame so we criticize ourselves and blame ourselves? Do we hear, what am I feeling and needing right now? Or do we hear, what are they saying? What are they feeling? What are they needing? I think somebody could jump in on that if they want to provide it's okay with the existing.
Agreed. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if not, thank you for the opportunity for a teaser for the next.
Very welcome. Very welcome. And for those interested who don't already have it, 30 days is available, and so you can get a copy up front if you are so inclined. Or for those listening, you can contact the ashram and have them mail one to you. They're $15 per copy. All right, so many blessings to everybody. Please make sure to eat. Linda made an amazing lunch today. It's a cabbage roll soup with a little side of salad, so some Asian salad, and then cinnamon bananas. It just smells divine. So, yeah, please enjoy it. Please enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.